is a sculpture I made, which is a way of kind of freeing a form into an object that has different degrees of freedom. So it can balance on a point. This is a bronze ball, an aluminum arm here, and then this wooden disc. And so the wooden disc was really thought about as something that you'd want to hold on to and that would glide easily through your hands. And the aluminum is because it's very light. The bronze is nice, hard, durable material that could roll on the ground. And the inside of the bronze ball, there's a lead weight that's free swinging on an axle that's on two bearings that pass in between across it like this, that counterbalance this weight. So it allows it to roll. And the sphere has that balance property that it always sort of stays still and looks the same from every direction. But if you put something on top of it, it misbalances it, and so it would tip over. But in this case, because the interior is free swinging in relation to the sphere, it can stand up on one point. And then there was a second level to this object, which is that I wanted it to convey some proportions that I was interested in, which is the diameter of the moon and the diameter of the Earth in proportion to each other. I was exploring really early on, wanting to make things float in the air, and I thought up a lot of ideas. This is a sculpture that I made that's it's magnetically levitated. Thing is, it's slightly dangerous, and normally it's sort of cordoned off when it's in a museum. But it's, let's see if I can manipulate it a little bit without, oops. So this is just floating on a permanent magnetic field, which stabilizes it in all directions, except there's a slight tether here, which keeps it from going over the top of its field. It's sort of surfing on a magnetic field at the crest of a wave, and that's what supports the object and keeps it stable. I think we could roll the tape, Ed, and then I have a sort of a collection of videos that I took of different installations which I could narrate. This is a sculpture of the sun and the Earth in proportion, representing that 8.5 minutes that takes light and gravity to connect the two. Like there. So here's the Earth. It's a little less than a millimeter. That was turned to solid bronze. And here's a similar sculpture. That's the sun at that end. And then in a series of 55 balls, it reduces proportionately. Each ball and the spaces between them reduce proportionately until you get down to this little Earth. This is in a sculpture park in Daejeon. This one is about the moon and then the distance to the Earth in proportion. Also, this is a little stone ball floating. As you see the little tether, but it's also magnetically levitated. And then this is the first part of, this is 109 spheres, since the sun is 109 times the diameter of the Earth. And so this is the size of the sun, and then each of these little spheres is the size of the Earth in proportion to the sun. It's made up of 16 concentric shells. Each one has 92 spheres. And this was in the courtyard of a 12th century alchemist. And I was thinking of the sun as a kind of the ultimate alchemist. So this, again, is on the subject, a slice from the equator of the Earth, and then the moon in the center. And it's floating. This is in France. This is in Sapporo, and it's balancing on a shaft and a ball right at the center of gravity, or just slightly above the center of gravity, which means that the lower half of the object is just a little bit more weighty. So you can see it rotating here, and it weighs about a ton or over a ton. It's made of stainless steel, quite thick, but it's being balanced like that in equilibrium. It's susceptible to motion by the air currents. This is another species of work that I do. These are these arrays, and these spheres are all suspended, but they have magnets horizontally in them that make them all like compasses. So all the red sides, for example, face one direction south, and the blue side, the complement, faces the other way. So as you turn around, you're seeing different colors. This is based on the structure of a diamond. It was a diamond cell structure was the point of departure, and then there were kind of large spaces in the kind of the hollows between the atoms, and so I placed one more element inside of each one of them. And these were white spheres, and then I had video projectors that were projecting intermittently onto the spheres, so they would catch parts of the images and make sort of three-dimensional color volumes as you walk through it, through the object. This is something I did of a tactile communication system. It was the idea of isolating the tactile component of sculpture and then putting it into a communication system. This was an idea of moving a sculpture, a ball that would be directed around the room by a computer. This is a clock I designed. It has Buckminster Fuller's Dymaxion map edited here. It turns once per day in synchrony with the Earth. And then this is like projects that are harder to build, something that would... This has a diamond-bottomed lake, so it's a floating island with water, fresh water, that can fly from place to place, be grown, I suppose, with nanotechnology in the future sometime. In the course of doing my work, I sort of have a broad range of interests, and some of it is just the idea of creating media as a sculpture, something that would keep the sculpture fresh and ever-changing by just creating the media that the sculpture is made of. And I had a lot of always interested in the concept of a crystal ball and the idea of that you could see things inside of a crystal ball, predict the future, or a television set where it's sort of like a magic box where anything can appear. And I had thought about a long time ago, sort of in the late 60s when I was just starting out, under the influence of thinking about Buckminster Fuller's grand project for an electric globe across from the United Nations, and other things that were happening in the space program at that time, and whole Earth catalog, things like that. I was thinking about a mass-produced spherical television sets that could be linked to orbiting camera satellites. And so if we could roll the next film here. This has evolved over the years in a lot of different iterations, but this is the current version of it is a flying airship that's about 35 meters in diameter, about 110 feet in diameter, and the whole surface of it is covered with 60 million diodes, red, blue, and green, that allow you to have a high-resolution picture visible in daylight. And so I came with a plan. I brought it to Paul McCrady's company, Aero Environment, to do a feasibility study, and they analyzed it and came up with a lot of innovative ideas of how to propel it. So we have a physical plan of how to make this actually happen. And this is the control room inside of the ship. And the idea of this Air Genie is it's something that can just transform and become anything, and it's like a traveling show. It has speakers on it, and it has cameras over the surface of it, so it can see its environment, and then it can mimic its environment and disappear. And here the legs are retracting, and the cabin is open or closed as you like. Weighs about 20 tons. It has onboard generators, can generate about 1 million kilowatts in order to be bright enough to be visible in daylight. And the idea of it is to make a kind of a traveling show. It really would be dedicated to the arts and to interacting. And there would be on board a crew of artists, musicians that would allow the thing to become actually kind of a conscious object that would respond to the moment and to interact as an entity that was aware, that could communicate. And it's completely silent and non-polluting. It has electric motors with a novel propulsion system. It could be, interact with large crowds in different ways. Primarily, I would be interested in how it would interact with, say, going to a college campus and then being used as a way of talking about the earth sciences, the world, the situation of the globe. The default image on the object would probably be a high-resolution Earth image, but then one could interact with that and show plate tectonics or global warming issues or migrations, all of the things that we're concerned with today. And then at night, the idea is that would be used as kind of a rave situation where the people could cut loose and the music and the lights and everything. So it could land in a park, for example, or this could represent a college green. And then it would have a corresponding website that would show the itinerary of this, and so interacting with the same kind of imagery. And then it would also be able to be an open code so people could interact with it. It would be a forum for people's ideas about what they would like to see on a giant screen of this type. And so that's pretty much it. Okay, thank you.